the world watched in horror. Argentina's president, Javier Milei, unleashed a tirade of threats. His target, anyone who dared criticize Elon Musk. Musk had been pictured making a gesture. Many interpreted it as a Nazi salute. This occurred during Donald Trump's controversial return to the White House. Milei, a self-proclaimed admirer of both men, reacted with fury. "Leftist sons of bitches tremble," he snarled. "We're going to come looking for you." These words, dripping with venom, sent shockwaves through Argentina. This wasn't just an attack on Milei's critics. It was an assault on the very foundations of democracy. The president, sworn to uphold the law, was inciting violence against his own people. The world wondered, had Argentina's young democracy fallen prey to the authoritarian temptations gripping the globe? Milei's words were a chilling echo of a dark past. They harked back to the days of Argentina's brutal dictatorship. Back then, dissent was met with violence. People disappeared. Fear silenced opposition. Was history repeating itself? Many Argentines, haunted by the ghosts of their past, feared the worst. The president's outburst was not an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern of increasingly erratic and authoritarian behavior. Milei had already alienated international allies. He had threatened to pull Argentina out of the World Health Organization and the Paris Agreement. His actions placed him squarely in the camp of global strongmen. Men who valued power over principles, and who saw democracy as an obstacle to be crushed. Milei's incendiary rhetoric drew immediate comparisons to his political idol, Donald Trump. Trump, during his presidency, had shown a similar penchant for attacking his critics. He had used inflammatory language. He had encouraged violence against protesters. He had even praised authoritarian leaders. Milei, many argued, was following in Trump's footsteps. He was using the same playbook of division and fear-mongering. This was a strategy to consolidate power. It was a strategy to silence opposition. It was a strategy that had worked for Trump, at least in the short term. The parallels between the two men were striking. Both were political outsiders. Both were masters of social media. Both used populist rhetoric to appeal to a base of disaffected voters. And both, it seemed, were willing to sacrifice democratic norms on the altar of personal ambition. The international community watched with growing concern. The rise of Trump had been a wake-up call. It showed the fragility of democracy, even in the world's most powerful nation. Now, with Milei's ascent, that fragility was on full display once again. The question was, would the world stand idly by as another democracy teetered on the brink? The backlash to Milei's threats was swift and furious. Opposition leaders condemned his words as dangerous and irresponsible. Juan Grabois, a prominent social activist, didn't mince words. "Fascist son of a bitch," he roared back, accusing Milei of being a crawling monkey. Grabois reminded Milei that he wasn't a king. "Nobody voted for you to be a tyrant," he declared. Grabois wasn't alone. Politicians from across the political spectrum voiced their outrage. They called for calm. They called for unity. They called for Milei to retract his statements and apologize to the nation. But their pleas fell on deaf ears. Milei, emboldened by his base of supporters, doubled down on his rhetoric. He showed no remorse. He offered no apologies. Civil society organizations joined the chorus of condemnation. Human rights groups warned that Milei's words could incite violence against minorities and political opponents. Journalists expressed fears about press freedom. Lawyers questioned the legality of Milei's threats. Even some members of Milei's own party expressed discomfort with his language. They worried that he was going too far. They worried that he was alienating potential allies. They worried that he was jeopardizing his own presidency. Milei's threats cast a dark cloud over Argentina's young democracy. The country had only emerged from dictatorship in 1983. The wounds of that dark chapter were still fresh. Many Argentines feared that Milei's authoritarian tendencies would lead the nation down a dangerous path. Legal experts debated whether Milei's words constituted a crime. Some argued that his threats of violence violated the Argentine constitution. They called for his impeachment. Others suggested that his words could be interpreted as incitement to violence, a criminal offense. The international community watched with bated breath. Argentina, once a beacon of hope for democracy in Latin America, was now a cautionary tale. It was a reminder that democracy is a fragile thing. It is a reminder that it must be defended constantly against those who would seek to undermine it. As the sun set on another tumultuous day in Argentina, the future remained uncertain. One thing, however, was clear. The country was at a crossroads. The path it chose would have profound implications not just for Argentina, but for the entire region. The world held its breath, hoping against hope that Argentina would choose the path of democracy over the abyss of authoritarianism.